In my childhood, my sister Emma, she was the sun, and I was basically a cloud that occasionally blocked her light. Every report card, every school play, every tiny achievement, Dad acted like she'd won a Nobel Prize. Me? I got a pat on the head and a "that's nice, sweetie." I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself I was being sensitive. But deep down, I knew I was the backup daughter. The one who got leftovers of his attention while Emma got the full buffet. When Emma announced her engagement 5 years ago, Dad literally cried. Happy tears, the whole works. He immediately asked what color tux he should wear to match her wedding theme. He started working out so he'd look good in photos. This man, who I'd never seen step foot in a gym, suddenly became Mr. Fitness because he wanted to be the best version of himself for Emma's big day. And me? Well, you're about to see just how different my engagement announcement went. Emma's wedding was something out of a movie. We're talking designer dress, fancy venue, 500 guests. And Dad? He was the star of that show, honey. He practiced his father-daughter dance for weeks. He wrote this tear-jerking speech that had everyone sobbing into their champagne. When he walked Emma down that aisle, I swear the photographer took about 1,000 pictures of just the two of them. His face was glowing with pure pride. I remember sitting in that church pew, watching them and feeling this tiny knife twist in my chest. Because I was happy for Emma, I really was, but I also couldn't help wondering if Dad would ever look at me like that. Would he ever be that proud? That present? That emotionally invested in my life? I pushed those thoughts away because thinking them made me feel like a terrible person. But they stayed there, lurking in the back of my mind like unwanted guests at a party. Little did I know, those doubts were preparing me for what was coming. 2 years after Emma's wedding, I met Jake at a coffee shop. Total meet-cute situation. He spilled his latte on my laptop, and I was about to lose my mind until he smiled and offered to buy me a new computer and unlimited coffee for life. We laughed about it, exchanged numbers, and 6 months later, I was head over heels in love with this man. Jake was everything I'd hoped for. Kind, funny, successful, and he treated me like I was the center of his universe. When he proposed, on a beach at sunset, down on one knee with my grandmother's ring he'd secretly asked Mom for, I cried so hard I couldn't even say yes at first. I just nodded like a bobblehead while tears streamed down my face. My first thought after, my God, yes, was calling my parents. I was so excited, so hopeful that maybe this would be my moment with Dad. Maybe my wedding would be our thing, you know? Oh, how wrong I was. The phone call that followed changed everything. I called Mom and Dad on FaceTime, practically vibrating with excitement. Mom answered, and her reaction was perfect, screaming, crying happy tears, demanding to see the ring from every angle. Then Dad appeared in the frame, and I saw his face. Flat. That's the only word for it. Just flat. Congratulations, he said, with all the enthusiasm of someone reading a grocery list. No smile, no questions about Jake, no "let me see that ring" moment. Just congratulations and then silence. I felt my stomach drop, but I pushed through. Dad, I can't wait for you to walk me down the aisle, I said, trying to inject excitement into his lack of it. He cleared his throat. We'll see, honey. That's a ways off. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. What? Let's not get ahead of ourselves? When Emma got engaged, he was planning his tux the same day. But okay, I told myself he was probably just tired or distracted. I should have trusted my gut right then. 'Cause his next move was even worse. Jake and I set a date for 8 months out. Not too rushed, plenty of time for planning. I asked Dad to help me look at venues. Can't make it, back's acting up, he texted back. Okay, fair enough. Backs are tricky. I asked if he wanted to come cake tasting with me and Mom. Got a doctor's appointment, he replied. I asked if he'd walk me through the church where Emma got married just so I could picture it. Let's talk about it later, I'm swamped with work. Work? Dad was retired. Had been for 3 years. But I made excuses for him. Maybe retirement was harder than he thought. Maybe he was dealing with something he didn't want to talk about. Maybe he was just one of those dads who didn't get involved in wedding stuff. Except he'd been extremely involved in Emma's wedding. He'd had opinions about flowers, catering, even the font on the invitations. For me, nothing. Radio silence with occasional "I'm too busy" excuses. Then came the conversation that shattered my heart into a million pieces. 4 months before my wedding, I called Dad specifically to talk about the father-daughter dance and the aisle walk. I needed to know songs, I needed to coordinate timing, I needed him. He sighed before he even said hello. That sigh told me everything, but I wasn't ready to hear it yet. "Dad, we need to finalize some wedding details," I started. Another sigh. "Listen, sweetheart, I've been meaning to talk to you about this. I don't think I'm going to be able to walk you down the aisle." My brain literally short-circuited. What? Why? Are you sick? What's wrong? I was panicking, thinking cancer, heart disease, something serious. No, nothing like that. I'm not feeling up to it. My back has been really bothering me, and I'm just tired a lot lately. The whole wedding thing, standing for that long, all the photos and attention. I think it's better if maybe your Uncle Rick does it." Uncle Rick? Uncle Rick. A man I saw maybe twice a year? But here's where it gets even more insulting. I tried to reason with him. "Dad, you don't have to stand for long. We can get you a chair. We can make it work. I need you there." He was quiet for a moment, then said, "I just don't think I can handle it right now. I need to take it easy. Doctor's orders. Doctor's orders." Okay. That sounded legitimate, right? Except I'd talked to Mom literally the day before, and she'd mentioned they were planning a fishing trip with his buddies. A 3-day fishing trip that involved hiking to remote spots and sleeping in a tent. But walking? Your daughter down an aisle for 3 minutes? Too much. I didn't say any of that, though. I was too shocked, too hurt. I just said, "Okay," in this tiny voice I didn't even recognize, and hung up. Then I cried for 2 hours straight. Jake held me while I sobbed into his shirt, asking what I'd done wrong. Why wasn't I enough? Why did Emma get the dad who showed up, and I got the one who couldn't even be bothered? And then my sister said something that made it even worse. Called Emma, hoping for support. Maybe she could talk to Dad, convince him to change his mind. You know what she said? "Well, maybe he's just overwhelmed." You know how he gets. Overwhelmed? The man was retired. "Emma, he walked you down the aisle. He practiced dances with you. He gave an entire speech about how proud he was to be your father." Silence. Then that was different. I'm his firstborn. It's always more special with the first. I wanted to reach through the phone and shake her. More special? So my wedding was just less? I was just less? "Emma, that's incredibly hurtful," I managed to say, my voice shaking. "I didn't mean it like that," she backtracked. "I just mean maybe lower your expectations. Dad's getting older. He can't do everything he used to do. Except he could apparently do everything for Emma's wedding 3 years ago when he was only 3 years younger." The math wasn't mathing, and I was done making excuses for him. But I tried one more time to reach him, and what happened next destroyed me. 2 weeks after that phone call, I drove to my parents' house. I needed to see Dad face to face to make him understand what this meant to me. Mom answered the door and immediately looked uncomfortable. "He's in the garage," she said quietly. I found him working on his workbench, building something out of wood. His back looked fine. He was bending, lifting, standing without any problem. "Dad," I said, and he jumped like I'd caught him doing something wrong. We talked for maybe 10 minutes. I told him how much it would mean to me. I told him I'd dreamed about this moment since I was a little girl. I told him I didn't care about a big production, I just wanted him. He wouldn't look at me. just kept sanding that piece of wood, avoiding my eyes. I already told you I can't do it. I'm sorry. That was it. No explanation, no real reason, just I can't. I left that garage feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach. I decided right then that I was done begging. I'd have Uncle Rick walk me down the aisle and I'd somehow survive this. But then my maid of honor, Sarah, sent me a photo. It was 3 weeks before my wedding. I was at my dress fitting when my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. Isn't this your dad?" with a photo attached. I opened it and my entire world tilted. There was my father at some kind of outdoor event dancing. Not sitting because his back hurt. Not resting because he was too tired. Dancing. He was wearing khakis and a polo shirt, had a huge smile on his face, and was literally mid-twirl with some woman I didn't recognize. I zoomed in on the photo. His face was lit up with joy, the same expression he'd had at Emma's wedding. The same expression I'd been desperately hoping to see directed at me. "Where is this?" I texted Sarah back, my hand shaking so hard I could barely type. "Some charity golf tournament. My cousin volunteers there and just sent me pics. Thought you should know. A charity golf tournament. Golf. The sport that requires walking, bending, twisting, and standing for hours." But where he was wasn't even the worst part. Who he was with made me see red. I left that dress fitting and went straight to my car. My brain was on fire. Called Sarah. "Find out everything you can about this event. When was it? Why was he there?" She called back 20 minutes later with information that made my blood boil. The charity golf tournament was for Emma's husband's family foundation. Emma's husband. Dad wasn't just out living his best life while claiming he was too sick for my wedding. He was doing it for Emma's family. I checked Emma's social media, something I rarely did because it always made me feel inadequate. Sure enough, there were photos from the same event. Pictures of Dad laughing with Emma and her husband. Pictures of him looking healthy, energetic, and completely fine. The event had happened last weekend. The same weekend he texted me saying he wasn't up for coming to my rehearsal dinner planning meeting. I felt like I'd been living in an alternate reality. Every excuse, every "I'm too tired," every "my back hurts," all lies. And then I found something that made the betrayal even worse. I went full detective mode, scrolling through Dad's Facebook that I'd barely looked at in months. Post after post of him at events. Him at Emma's house for Sunday dinners. Him helping Emma's husband with some home renovation project. Him at his grandkids' soccer games, Emma's kids, of course. I didn't have children yet, but that wasn't the point. The point was that Dad had plenty of energy for Emma's life. For her family. For her husband's charity events. But for MY wedding? Too tired. Too sick. Back hurts. I felt like I'd been punched repeatedly. Each photo was another blow. And they weren't old photos, these were from the past month. While he'd been giving me excuses, he'd been living a completely active life with Emma's family. I called Jake, and I'm pretty sure I wasn't even making sense, I was so angry. "He's been lying," I kept saying. "The whole time he's been lying to my face." Jake said something then that changed my entire perspective on the situation. Jake listened to me rant for a solid 15 minutes before he said, "Babe, I think you need to accept that your dad is choosing not to be part of this. Not because he can't, but because he doesn't want to." Those words hit me like a truck. "But why?" I asked, my voice breaking. Jake sighed. "I don't know. Maybe it's about control. Maybe Emma's better at making him feel needed. Maybe he's just a jerk who plays favorites. But here's what I do know, you've been killing yourself trying to earn his approval your entire life, and it's never going to happen. It's not the way you want it to." I wanted to argue, but I couldn't. 'Cause he was right. I'd spent 32 years trying to be good enough for Dad. Trying to earn the same love, the same pride, the same showing up that he gave Emma automatically. And I was exhausted. So what do? I asked Jake. He was quiet for a moment, then said, "You stop giving him power over your happiness, and you get married with or without him." But I wasn't ready to just let it go. I needed answers first. I called Mom and asked her point blank, "Did you know Dad was at Emma's charity event last weekend?" Long pause. "Yes. And you didn't think to mention it when he told me he was too tired to come to my rehearsal dinner planning?" Another pause. "Honey, it's complicated." Complicated? Complicated? Mom, he lied to me. He's been lying for months about being too sick and too tired, but he's perfectly fine to do everything for Emma. She sighed, and I could tell she'd been dreading this conversation. "Your father and Emma have always had a special bond. You know that." "He doesn't mean to hurt you." "Stop," I interrupted. "Stop making excuses for him. He's making a choice. He's choosing her over me, and he's been doing it our entire lives." Mom was crying now. "I've tried talking to him. I've told him he's making a mistake. But he's stubborn and he thinks Emma needs him more." "Needs him more? Needs him more?" "Mom, I asked for him. I begged for him. Emma didn't have to beg." What Mom said next made me realize I wasn't crazy. I'd been living in a rigged game my whole life. Mom took a shaky breath. "You're right. You've always been right. Your father has favored Emma since you were both little girls. I've watched it, I've argued with him about it, and I've hated myself for not protecting you more from it." Finally, someone was saying it out loud. "Why, Mom? What did I do wrong?" I was crying now, years of pain spilling out. "Nothing, baby. You did nothing wrong. Emma was his first, and she learned early how to wrap him around her finger. She calls him constantly, she asks his advice on everything, she makes him feel important. And your father, he eats that up. You were always more independent. You didn't need him the same way, and I think that hurt his ego. So I was being punished for not being needy enough? For not manipulating him into feeling important? That's insane, Mom." "I know," she said quietly. "I know it is. And I'm sorry I didn't stand up to him more. I'm sorry I let this happen." We cried together on the phone, but her apology didn't fix anything. Because the wedding was now 2 weeks away, and I had to make a decision. I sat in my apartment that night with Jake, staring at my phone. Part of me wanted to call Dad and scream at him. Part of me wanted to uninvite him to the wedding entirely. Part of me wanted to call the whole thing off and elope. But then Jake said something that sparked an idea. What if you plan the wedding you actually want without worrying about his feelings? What if you stop trying to please someone who's never going to be pleased? What if I did? What if I stopped playing this game where I begged for scraps of his attention? What if I built a wedding and a life that honored me instead of trying to earn his approval? A wild idea started forming in my mind. Something that would make a statement. Something that would show Dad and everyone else that I didn't need him to validate my worth. "I think I know what I'm going to do," I told Jake. He raised an eyebrow. "Should I be worried?" I smiled for the first time in days. "Probably." What I planned next was bold, maybe even crazy, but it was going to be perfect. Here's what I decided. If Dad wouldn't walk me down the aisle, then no one would. I would walk myself. But not in a sad, alone kind of way. In a powerful, I don't need anyone to give me away because I belong to myself kind of way. I called my wedding planner and made some changes. Big changes. Instead of the traditional processional, I was going to walk down the aisle to a song I loved by myself, holding a bouquet Mom and I would make together. No Uncle Rick, no substitute, no compromise. Just me. When I told Mom, she cried. Happy tears this time. "That's beautiful," she whispered. "That's so you." When I told Sarah, she literally cheered. "Yes, this is what I'm talking about. Show them who's boss." Emma predictably thought I was being dramatic. "You're really going to make a statement like that at your own wedding?" Don't you think that's a bit much? Nope. I didn't think it was a bit much. I thought it was exactly enough. But I wasn't done. I had one more surprise plan that would change everything. Instead of a father-daughter dance, I planned something else. A mother-daughter dance. Mom had been there for every single moment of my life. Every scraped knee, every heartbreak, every triumph. She deserved to be honored. When I asked her, she sobbed so hard she couldn't speak for a full minute. "Are you sure?" she finally managed. "I'm more sure about this than anything," I told her. We picked a song, In My Daughter's Eyes by Martina McBride, and practiced in her living room, both of us crying and laughing at the same time. This dance was going to be the moment of my wedding. Not some obligatory tradition with a man who couldn't be bothered to show up for me, but a real, genuine celebration of the parent who had shown up. Every single time. I also decided to do something during the ceremony. Something that would acknowledge the situation without being bitter or angry. I was going to thank the people who'd supported me, specifically, by name. And when I sent out the final program to be printed, I made sure Dad would see exactly what he'd chosen to miss. 1 week before the wedding, Dad called. First time he'd initiated contact in months. "I heard you're walking yourself down the aisle," he said. No hello, no how are you. Just accusation in his voice. "Yes, I am," I replied, keeping my voice steady. "That's going to look strange. People will talk. Why don't you just let Uncle Rick do it?" "Why? Why?" "'Cause Uncle Rick wasn't my father. 'Cause I'd begged my father to do it and he'd refused. 'Cause I was done pretending this was okay. Dad, you made your choice. I'm making mine." He got defensive. "I told you I wasn't feeling well. You're being unfair." "Unfair? Unfair?" "Dad, I saw the photos from Emma's charity event. I saw you dancing. I saw you looking perfectly healthy. So no, I'm not being unfair. I'm being honest." Silence. "Then, those photos, that was different. I had obligations." "And you didn't have obligations to your own daughter's wedding?" More silence. "You're going to regret making a scene," he finally said. I told him something then that I'd never said before, something that felt both terrifying and freeing. "Dad, the only thing I regret is spending 32 years trying to earn love that should have been freely given. I regret believing your excuses. I regret making myself smaller so Emma could shine brighter. But walking myself down the aisle? I will never regret that." He didn't know what to say. I'd never talked to him like this before. Never challenged him, never pushed back. I'd always been the good daughter, the easy daughter, the one who didn't make waves. "You're being dramatic," he muttered. "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe I'm finally being honest. You've made it clear where your priorities are. Emma comes first. She always has. And I'm done pretending that doesn't hurt. I'm done begging you to care." "I do care," he said, but his voice was weak. "Then show up, Dad. Actually show up. Not with excuses or conditions or comparing me to Emma. Just show up." I hung up before he could respond. My hands were shaking, but I felt lighter than I had in years. 3 days before the wedding, something happened that I didn't expect. Emma showed up at my apartment unannounced. "We need to talk," she said, pushing past me into my living room. "You're embarrassing, Dad. Everyone's going to know something's wrong when you walk down the aisle alone." I stared at her. "Emma, something is wrong. Dad chose not to walk me down the aisle. I'm not hiding that." She threw her hands up. "Why can't you just let Uncle Rick do it? Why do you have to make everything so difficult?" "Make everything difficult? Me?" "Emma," I asked Dad. I begged him. He said no. He lied about being sick while attending your events. And somehow I'm the one making things difficult. She looked uncomfortable. He's just more comfortable with me. I don't know why you can't accept that. Because I'm his daughter, too, I shouted. I deserve the same love, the same effort, the same showing up. And so help me, Emma. If you tell me one more time that I should just accept being second place, we're done. She said something then that finally made everything make sense. Emma sat down, and for the first time, she looked genuinely uncomfortable. You want to know the truth? Dad's always liked me better because I make him feel needed. After Mom went back to work when we were kids, Dad felt pushed aside. I was the one who clung to him, who asked him for help with everything, who made him feel important. You were always off doing your own thing, being independent. He took that personally. I felt like I'd been hit with cold water. So I'm being punished because I wasn't needy enough? Because I didn't manipulate him into feeling important? Emma flinched. I wasn't manipulating. Yes, you were. Maybe not consciously, but yes. And instead of Dad being proud that he raised an independent daughter, he resents me for it. She didn't deny it. Look, I didn't come here to fight. I came to ask you to compromise. For the family. The family. I laughed bitterly. Emma, the family compromised me right out of existence. I'm done shrinking myself to make everyone comfortable. The next day, Mom called with news that changed everything. Mom called me the morning before the rehearsal dinner. I told your father that if he doesn't show up to your wedding and treat you with the respect you deserve, I'm leaving him. I almost dropped the phone. Mom, what? You don't have to. Yes, I do. I should have done it years ago. I've watched him hurt you over and over, and I've made excuses for him. I've enabled his favoritism because it was easier than fighting. But I'm done. You're my daughter, and you deserve better. We deserve better. I was crying. What did he say? She laughed, but it sounded sad. He said I was overreacting. So I packed a bag and went to your grandmother's house. I meant it. I'm not coming back unless he changes. Mom, I don't want to be the reason your marriage falls apart. You're not the reason. His choices are the reason. And maybe this will finally wake him up. Or maybe it won't. Either way, I'm walking you down that aisle tomorrow if you'll have me. The rehearsal dinner was that night, and Dad actually showed up. Dad walked into the rehearsal dinner venue looking like he'd aged 10 years. He found me in the corner going over last-minute details. Can we talk? He asked. I wanted to say no. I wanted to protect myself from more hurt. But something in his face made me nod. We stepped outside onto the patio. Your mother left me, he said like I didn't know. Like she hadn't called me from Grandma's house. I know, I replied. He ran a hand through his hair. She said I've been a terrible father to you. That I've played favorites. That I've hurt you on purpose. And what do you think? I asked. He was quiet for a long moment. I think I didn't realize how much I was hurting you. I thought you didn't need me like Emma did. You were always so strong, so independent. I guess I took that for granted. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even close. Dad, you didn't take it for granted. You resented it. You resented that I didn't make you feel important every second. What he said next shocked me more than anything else that had happened. Dad's face crumpled. You're right. You're absolutely right, and I hate it. I hate that I'm the kind of father who needs his daughter to beg for his attention. I hate that I've been so wrapped up in my own ego that I couldn't see what I was doing to you. He was crying. My father, who I'd seen cry exactly twice in my life, once at Emma's wedding and once when his own father died, was crying. Emma calls me 5 times a week, he continued. She asks my opinion on everything. She makes me feel valuable. And when you didn't do that, I told myself it was because you didn't care about me. But really, I was just too proud to admit that I wanted your attention too. I just wanted you to need me. I felt my anger wavering, but I held firm. Dad, I did need you. I needed you to show up without me having to beg. I needed you to be as proud of me as you were of Emma. I needed you to walk me down the aisle. And then he asked me something I never expected him to ask. Is it too late? He asked, his voice breaking. Can I still walk you down the aisle tomorrow? Please. I looked at this man who'd hurt me so deeply. Part of me wanted to say yes immediately, to give him the forgiveness he was asking for. But another part, the part that had been wounded over and over, hesitated. Dad, I need you to understand something. If I let you walk me down the aisle, it's not going to fix everything. Doesn't erase 32 years of coming in second place. Doesn't erase the lies about being too sick. It doesn't erase the way you showed up for Emma and disappeared for me. He nodded, tears still streaming down his face. I know it doesn't. But please let me start trying to fix it. Let me show you that I can change. I looked through the window at the rehearsal dinner happening inside. Jake was laughing with my mom. Sarah was showing everyone her bridesmaid dress. My wedding was tomorrow, with or without Dad walking me down the aisle. I made a decision that night that surprised everyone, including myself. Okay, I finally said. But not the traditional way. The mom is walking me halfway down the aisle because she's the one who's been there my entire life. If you want to walk me the second half, you can. But Mom goes first. Dad's face showed surprise, then understanding, then gratitude. That's more than fair. That's more than I deserve. Yes, it is, I agreed. And Dad? If you ever pull something like this again, if you miss an important moment, if you make excuses to avoid being there for me, if you choose Emma over me one more time, I'm done. No second chances. No explanations. I will cut you out of my life, and I will not feel guilty about it. He nodded vigorously. I understand. I promise I'll do better. I'll be better. I wanted to believe him. I really did. But trust isn't rebuilt in one conversation. It's rebuilt in actions over time through consistency. We'll see, I said. That night, I called Mom and told her the plan. She cried again. This woman had cried more in the past 2 weeks than I'd seen in years. And then my wedding day arrived, and everything I'd planned was about to become real. My wedding day dawned bright and clear. I woke up feeling surprisingly calm. Maybe it was because I'd finally stopped trying to control other people's choices and focused on my own. Maybe it was because I knew that no matter what happened with Dad, I had people who loved me unconditionally. Sarah helped me into my dress, a gorgeous lace gown that made me feel like a queen. Mom came in and just stared at me, tears already streaming down her face. You're the most beautiful bride I've ever seen, she whispered. Even more beautiful than Emma? I teased, and we both laughed through our tears. Dad arrived at the church an hour before the ceremony. He knocked on the bridal suite door hesitantly. When I opened it, he just looked at me for a long moment. You look just like your mother did on our wedding day, he said softly. Beautiful and strong and so much braver than I ever was. It wasn't a grand apology. It wasn't a movie moment. But it was real and it was something. Then it was time to walk down that aisle, and I had to trust that this new beginning was possible. The music started, not traditional wedding march, but 1,000 Years by Christina Perri, a song that meant something to Jake and me. The doors opened, and I saw everyone turn to look at me. But I was looking at Jake, standing at the altar with tears already streaming down his face. Mom took my arm first. We walked together down the first half of that aisle, and I felt her strength flowing into me. Every step was a testament to her love, her sacrifices, her unwavering presence in my life. Halfway down, we stopped. Dad stepped forward from his seat. Mom kissed my cheek, then placed my hand in Dad's. He looked at me with more genuine emotion than I'd seen from him in years. We walked the second half together, and I'll admit, it felt good. Not perfect, not healed, but like maybe, possibly, this could be a new start. When we reached Jake, Dad didn't just hand me off. He hugged me. Whispered, I'm so proud of you. I'm sorry I didn't say it enough. But the most powerful moment of the night was still coming. The reception was perfect. But when it came time for the parent dances, I made an announcement. Traditionally, this is when the bride dances with her father. But I'm doing something different tonight. Because tradition should honor the people who show up, not just the people who are supposed to. I held out my hand to Mom. This dance is for the parent who is there for every skin knee, every heartbreak, every triumph. This is for the parent who never made excuses, never played favorites, and never made me beg for love. We danced to In My Daughter's Eyes, and there wasn't a dry eye in that room. Not even Dad's. After our dance, I invited Dad to join us for the last 30 seconds. 'Cause second chances are real, but they're earned through action, not promises. Here's what I learned through all of this. You can't force people to love you the way you deserve. You can't beg someone into showing up. But you can choose who gets space in your life. You can rewrite the traditions that no longer serve you. You can walk yourself down any aisle, literal or metaphorical, and be just fine. Better than fine, actually. Dad and I are still working on our relationship. Some days are good, some days I remember the hurt. But I'm not waiting for his approval anymore to live my life. I'm not shrinking myself to make room for someone else's favoritism. I'm walking forward on my own terms with people beside me who choose to be there. And honestly, that's the happiest ending I could have asked for. Not perfect, but real. Not a fairy tale, but mine. If you've ever been the second choice child, drop a comment. You're not alone and you're not crazy. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop begging for crumbs and build yourself a whole feast. Thanks for watching, and remember, you don't need anyone's permission to know your worth. So that's my story about how Dad walking my sister down the aisle became this huge emotional wedding moment, while my engagement story took a completely different turn. If you've experienced family wedding surprises or unexpected wedding moments like mine, you're not alone. This father-daughter wedding story taught me that sometimes the most heartwarming wedding stories come from rewriting the script ourselves. Wedding family emotions are complicated, but your engagement surprise reaction to life's disappointments defines you. Thanks for letting me share this emotional engagement story. Don't forget to subscribe for more real-life wedding family drama. You've got this.